Welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, Philadelphia's #1 real estate podcast and a Direct Subs production. Real estate investing is not rocket science, and on our show, we'll delve into best practices with a focus on the small things that add up over time. Please enjoy the authentic, informative, and actionable show with our host, Paul Jagelski.
Hello and welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, a podcast dedicated to exploring the world of real estate investing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started in the industry, this show is for you. Join us as we dive into the latest trends and insights in the Philadelphia real estate market and hear from expert guests who share their knowledge and experiences with investing in the dynamic city. This show is brought to you by DirectSubs.com. Please check them out at DirectSubs.com. Focusing on building connections for investors and contractors throughout the greater Philadelphia area. The Atomic Real Estate Show is your go-to resource for all things real estate in Philadelphia. I'm Paul Jagelski, your host. Now sit back, relax, and let's explore the world of the Atomic Real Estate together with our guest, Irfan. Irfan, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
How you doing, Paul? Nice to meet with you today. My name is Irfan Raza. I'm a real estate investor in Philadelphia. I also do wholesale as well. So I find properties and I sell them to the investor market. Do a little bit of retail, do a little bit of construction. Across the board, I'm in real estate. That's the easiest way to describe it.
All right. Well, to give everybody a little bit of portfolio of how much in real estate you are, approximately how many units do you currently
Yeah, I mentioned this to you earlier. I've been saying 100, over 100, and I have several podcasts that are recorded over 100. I believe I dipped under that 100 mark recently. So
well, time to add.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's really not necessary to add anymore. So right. So I just want to stabilize my portfolio at this point. Interest rates are going higher and higher. Construction costs are going very high as well. So I want to make sure that I'm stabilized. I'm paying down some of my overhead debt, some of my construction loans, see where I'm at and see if I want to pursue any different ventures. I don't know where this show is going to air, but I've told many people that we're expecting our third kid as well. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So the third kid's coming on board. So there's really no real incentive for me to say, you know what, I got to add another 20 units. Because I got to be over the 100 mark. I got to get to 200, right? There's a little incentive for that, right? So right now what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get everything stabilized, like I said. So I got a pretty good portfolio. Everything is operationally running pretty smoothly at this point. So it's gonna feel great to kind of step back from the portfolio. I still do have the wholesale operation going. The wholesale operation does or historically has turned around 50 contracts a year. So that's nothing to laugh at.
No.
As well. And we're probably going to scale that back just a tad bit as well. Just go for around 30-ish a year. That's gonna create a nice efficient operation. And that's kind of what we want to do, is just create efficiencies, have everything smooth and streamlined. And then it's going to set me up for, I don't want to say retirement, but set me up for this third kid coming on board. And the next step, right? So I might want to get heavier into construction. I might want to do some work for people, right? It just kind of kick back, right? The stress of running a business is
real.
The stress of running a business,
yeah.
Right? There's nothing like it. So I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I want to keep my options open and just streamline and making everything efficient. I think that's going to help me get there. So.
Dude, I like it. Honestly, I think almost anybody that's been in business on any sorts can take a lesson from that. There's a point in time where you need to just take a step back, streamline what you got, figure out what's profitable, what's not, where can you move forward out of it, Maybe you've got a couple properties that you got to rehab all of a sudden because you weren't paying attention to them as much as you were before. Maybe there's a couple that it's at the point where it's refinance time or sale time.
Yeah.
But, you know, like actually taking this time right now is really important. I'm really happy for you that you're doing this because a lot of people miss this step in their business.
Yeah, and as entrepreneurs, we're always go,
Yep.
right? So, and there's been dips in my business because of the market here and there, and I've after the dust settled, I recuperated. I grew too fast at certain points, and then I had to step back. There's been like numerous events that has caused me to dip, but nothing like what I'm about to do in the near future, right? So, I was telling CJ, I have like 9 units left, right? So 9 units left in construction. I've always done heavy construction, and it was always double-digit unit numbers, right? So, now I'm at 9 units. 5 of them, we basically got final permit inspection passed for 5 of them last week, actually.
Congrats.
So I have 4 units left. Woo! This is the slowest I've been since like 2015, maybe even earlier than that. So, and 2015 I had a full-time job, right? So,
well, so that's what I want to know. What's your timeline? When did you get into real estate? What were you doing? I know you had a full-time job when you started, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 2008, I graduated from Temple, got a very nice job, Center City, Big Four accounting firm, right? 2009 came along. I knew I needed to invest. I needed to be wise with my money. I was trying to search different ideas. Met with some people that were doing like almost turnkey type rentals in Philly. Bought a rental and then bought a house to rehab. The guys we met did not do a good job of running their business. We actually lost money on those 2 deals. But
good learning lessons real fast.
It was a great learning lesson, right? So learned a lot of money, lost a lot of money, more than my college tuition at Temple, right? So, but we were introduced to Point Breeze, right? And we were introduced to construction and the BRRRR method.
Ooh.
Right? And once we had those 2 tools, right? Like the BRRRR method, especially once we had that tool, it was just like, oh man, it's kind of unstoppable now, right? We could buy unlimited houses.
Yeah.
So we had to figure out the variables after that, which was money, which was construction, which was rental financing, right? Like all that stuff. And back then, I don't know if you remember, financing was very difficult to get.
Yes.
Right. So 2009, 2010, 11, 12, maybe even up to like 2015, financing was not easy to get, right? Like,
they wanted every freaking document on the face of the earth just to make sure you were who you were. That, you know, it was like 6 months pay stubs at that point. It was crazy.
It was difficult, and we were going through Fannie and Freddie at that time. We eventually transitioned over to portfolio loans or community banks, and then even still, it wasn't that easy. Like half the banks wanted me to have a job, half the banks didn't want me to have a job. They wanted to focus on. It was just like finding the right bank at the right time type of deal. Oh, you had 2 loans out for over $500,000. We can't do more than $500,000. It was just those things were just too much. So it was always trying to find the balance, right? You're like, I think you're in real estate, especially. I think you're always not balanced in acquisition, construction, financing, back office, right? Like there's probably like 5 main pieces. I'm forgetting one of them, but there's never a true balance where everything is streamlined and appropriately, right? So sometimes you have a construction set up and you're like, oh, I could do 10 units in 6 months, and then you can't find any inventory, right? So it's getting that set up is one of the biggest things in this business. So I guess to continue on, my story, we started out small, buying 1, 2, 3 units a year. 2016 hit, I had 30 units at that time. I got laid off from my position as a CPA. I was working for a regional accounting firm. great firm. And then when 2016 hit, I got laid off. It was the best day of my life. I walked out of that office with a smile on my face because I knew I was gonna. I was relieved because I wasn't gonna make the move to quit.
Right.
Because I had that salary holding me back.
Yep.
Right. Like it's almost like a drug, right? Just consistent money coming into your bank account.
Every 2 weeks, man.
Yeah.
It's a drug. You're right. It absolutely is.
So I had that. I wasn't gonna quit, and because I got laid off, it was like the best thing ever. And I started making moves at that time. And it was even the best thing ever because I actually made more money in the next 6 months than I did as a full year account. I had like a killer deal that I sold as an agent. I think it was like $1.9 million. And then I sold a flip I had in the works, and also got the agent money on that too. So I did good my first year out, and I wouldn't have made that move unless I got let go. So that was an awesome thing in my career.
Everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you needed the little kick. You got the little kick, and look at what you turned it into. You started with littles. You've got, we'll say 100. We're going to round up just for easy numbers here.
All right, it's rounded up. Nobody called me a liar. It's rounded up.
I'm on record. It is rounded up. And I'm going to say that you probably skipped a couple in there as well. So you've managed and purchased over 100 units, we could say.
Yeah, it was probably closer to 150, but yeah.
So 100 is a good roundup. We can go with that. That's okay. But I want to get back to some of those things that you stated a little bit earlier. You made some mistakes along the way, which is, hey, you said it. It's a learning lesson. And unfortunately, in this industry, learning lessons usually do cost money. I look at it as an education. You go to college, you learn how to be a doctor. That costs money, right? You get into real estate. Sometimes there's bad deals that happen to you. It costs you money, and it's a learning lesson. But dive into a couple of those learning lessons, if you could, for me. Something that new investors or even seasoned investors would be like, "Oh, thank you for you having the mistake. I don't want to do that one."
Yeah, I think you can learn a lesson. And it's like the college education, right?
Yep.
But you can't keep going to college, right? You can't keep going back, right? So for me, I take some lessons and I do forget every once in a while, right? And I'll make more mistakes. I'll make new mistakes. I think the biggest key when we're doing what we do in Philly with the BRRRR method, there's a lot of heavy construction going on, right? And you can meet people and you just know you can trust them. You know they're good people. But what you don't know is that they might not be running their business 100% appropriately, right? There's a lot of cash going in and out. There's a lot of cash that is not accounted for appropriately, even if you're a master accountant, right? I was a CPA, right? I even have trouble managing my cash as well, right? So if I have trouble, imagine somebody that's running a construction business. How are they gonna run their cash appropriately? Make sure that they're paying all their subs, making sure that they're paying their employees, making sure they're paying their vendors, right? How are they going to manage that if they're not in that, they're not trained in that field, right? So no matter how much you can trust somebody, if they don't have the money, they don't have the money, right? So if you pay them a draw in advance and they're using it to finish their other job, right? You could pretty much say that the money is lost, right? Yeah. So you got to be very cognizant of how the draw structure is. Try to create a draw structure that works for both parties. I mean, I've been doing draws probably like 3-4 draws a property recently, right? Okay. That I would not suggest to the new person, right? So if you're doing a full gut rehab, you probably should be at like 10, 12 draws. One after clean out, one deposit for framing material, finalized framing, like things of that nature to make sure you're very cut and clean on the money, right? So that would be my advice to people. Construction is probably the number one loss you have in this BRRRR method in Philly. I would say the number 2 loss is not knowing what you're getting yourself involved in, right? In purchase, right? So has a lot to do with construction, has a lot to do with your knowledge in zoning, and that could be a huge loss, right? So your zoning knowledge, and then your neighborhood knowledge, right? Yep. So let's just say those 3 things and just break them down. You got to remember those 3 things. I might not come back to them. So construction, zoning, and neighborhood. All right. So let's start with construction, right? In Philadelphia, when you're dealing with a 1900 build property, there is no such thing as a cosmetic rehab. All right. So just know that going into any project, you can't just finish or refinish the bathroom and put a new kitchen in there. You're likely going to see knob and tube wiring. You're going to likely see a crack in the stack. You're likely going to have to change out something you weren't expecting, like a water heater, HVAC system. You are going to have to do substantial payments, right? So what's an HVAC system cost nowadays? Like over $5,000, right? So you're basically have large swings in these construction budgets because of the cost of high dollar amount construction items, right? So that's something to be aware of. Number 2 was zoning.
Yep.
If you don't know zoning in Philadelphia, you could, yeah. I don't know if you guys can see Paul, but yeah.
I just shot myself in the head.
Yeah. So if you don't know zoning in Philly and you think you're buying a duplex or triplex and it's not zoned correctly, you can be in a big hurt of trouble. And a big hurt means money, time, expenses, pain, loss of rent, all of the above. So what I mean by that, say something is not properly zoned, you have to go through a variance and you have tenants in the place, right? And if it's not properly zoned and you have a triplex that's not properly zoned, it could trigger the need to put fire alarm and sprinkler systems in there. So imagine putting a sprinkler system in with a triplex with tenants in place, and the property will eventually need rehab, right? You might as well kick the tenants out. You can't really kick the tenants out, but wait till their leases expire and then start from scratch. So you're looking at a whole degree of trouble here with the zoning laws in Philly. So and everybody in Philly that I talk to that's just getting started, they always want multifamily. How many times have people said, oh, I want multifamily, multifamily, right? Yep. So that in itself, yeah, like you just got to be careful about what you're buying in Philly. So
yeah, especially with everybody. I've got a lot of clients that are like, oh, they got tenants in there, they're grandfathered. It's fine. That don't exist in Philly.
Yeah.
There is no grandfather. In fact, they do the opposite. If your previous owner was a quote unquote landlord and they didn't register it for a gap of 3 to 5 years, and now you're purchasing it, they're going to sit there and be like, and I just did this with a couple of my units. You got to go get an affidavit saying that you're not going to live there, that it's going to be a rental unit. Got to get an affidavit sitting there saying that you continue to keep it that way and you're not going to change the variance on it. You've got to apply for the city license, which is a whole nother thing. And yeah, it's a whole nother ball game. If even if it is, as you say, set up that way, tenant ran, the city could sit there and be like, no, we're switching it back to a single family because your previous owner never registered it.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I'm gonna take a note that I gotta review all my multis, make sure that they all have current rental licenses. But yeah, it's very dangerous.
Hey, real quick, who are you using to do your property management?
Oh yeah, I'm using PMR, so plug for them.
Go PMR, John Sachs.
GoPMR.com.
Yeah, definitely. He can help you with that too. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he does it, but I mean, there's no hurt in double checking. So
nope, not at all. But the third one, the neighborhood, we got to get good with the neighborhood.
Oh yeah. I mean, prime example. I've a few properties around the 4900 block, and I'm not going to say the street address, right? 4900 block. There's a nice elementary school right there. The house is pretty decent condition, and the 4900 block is a great rental property. I appreciate the rental properties that I have on the 4900 block. The 50th block and the 51st block. I don't know how many properties I've been offered for less than $25,000, and I'm like, oh man, it's so cheap. And then I remember that it's the block that I don't want to be on because of drug dealing, because of too many vacant houses, abandoned houses, like all those type of things will create a less desirable property. So in Philly, it's very, very important to know your neighborhood and know your neighborhood in such detail. You know the blocks as well. So I'm great. Again, I'm great with my 4900 blocks, but I would be in a herd of trouble in 50th block and the 51st block. So,
dude, that's a very valid point, though. We are very in specific zip codes. We are very street oriented.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you sit there and want to say, hey, I like the 48 as well, but the 48 is basically a one-way street that allows parking. And I don't know if you've been down those streets. They're a pain in the butt to get down there. You try and rent those things, tenants come down there and they're like, yep, nope, I'm not even going to the showing because there's no parking. And if I can park, I got to go against poles or another car on top of the curb.
Yeah. And all those factors matter, right? So I talked to a lot of New Jersey investors because I'm also living in New Jersey. I don't invest much in there, but they said, one of the last guys I talked to, he said double yellow line, right? So it's kind of the opposite. In New Jersey, you don't want the double yellow line because you don't want high traffic flow in your suburb home. But in Philly, you kind of want the double yellow line. You want nice, easy parking. You want wide streets. You don't want to go up on the curb on a single family. And look, I have those houses, right? And I'm comfortable having those houses. I'm comfortable having 2-bedroom houses. I even have 1-bedroom houses, right? I just know, or I pretend to know my numbers, or I stay educated by my numbers, right? So I stay educated by my numbers, and the numbers still generally work in this house, in that house, which may be less desirable, right? I just know that on this block that I have a single lane, you have to park on the curb. I might get 1,100 instead of 1,200, right? And if I got the property cheap enough, I rehabbed it nice enough, all those things tend to equal out, right? So, then that's your neighborhood knowledge, right? So you get so good at a neighborhood, you can, off the top of your head, remember, look, that's a one-way. That's a park on the sidewalk. That whole block is 700 square foot houses, right? Like that, you can start remembering that. And honestly, it takes a little bit of time, right? So when I was in Point Breeze, 2009 to probably like 2014 or so, I knew that stuff off the top of my head, right? Like, and it took me probably like a good year and a half, but I knew like every square footage. Like if a house popped up, and at that time they were popping up on the MLS, the house popped up on Latona Street, I would remember, oh, those are small houses. If it popped up Reed Street, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom houses, that's the prime house. I want that house, right? So yeah, that
numbers in your head as soon as it pops up because you've already ran the numbers 100 times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I always used to tell new investors like, oh, I want to get involved. Well, just know what you want to get involved with. If you know 100% exactly what you want, people are going to think of you for when they have a property. So I remember when I started going full time, I started going to KW Philly, which I hang my license with KW Philly.
Okay.
I started going to those events, and every time I went up and spoke and introduced myself, I would say, my name's Irfan Raza. I buy rental real estate in Philadelphia. Any vacant properties you have, And I would say the streets, right? So I would say north of Oregon, east of 52nd Street, and south of Diamond, I want, right? And I would just paint this picture so clearly of exactly what I wanted. Vacant properties within that geography. And I mean, it kind of planted the seed in some people's head because I heard other investors saying it to me, right? Like, wait, this is my thing. This is what I say. I say north of Oregon, east of 52nd, and south of Diamond. Like, but it helped, right? So
yeah,
it definitely helped.
So I know you're taking a step back this year, kind of, building the business from within, which is smart. But the last couple of years, where were you really concentrating your efforts at? What zip codes were you looking at?
Yeah, so I think I was probably mostly West Philly.
Okay.
It's a hard question, but I was more open-minded in buying other places too. So if you look at my base buys, it was probably Point Breeze, Brewerytown, then West Philly. And West Philly always stuck through to one of my higher buying categories. But more recently, I started buying stuff in like West Oak Lane. I have one West Kensington, East Kensington, Southwest, like things of that nature. Also, last year, I sold more properties that I had in inventory ready to rehab than I ever had before, right? So I would say I sold like 10 or 11 units last year that I had set up. I was like, oh, I'm going to get to this. And I just changed my mind on them, right? So, and that's kind of why I lost that 100 count too.
I was going to say, see, it still counts. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. Yeah. So you had them in the pipeline and you just decided they weren't going to be a pipeline-worthy dream out of it.
Yeah, and mostly due to interest rates, right? Interest rates and construction costs, right? So when interest rates are 3.75% and you go to refinance, you leave 5-10 grand into the deal. Look, 5 to 10 grand is still a lot of money, but with the working capital and the volume we had, it wasn't that big of a deal, right? Now I'm looking and projecting my numbers, and I'm seeing 40,000 into the deal. With 10 units, it's $400,000.
Yeah.
Right. So then I tried calculating. I see all my working capital diminishing. Well, I wanted to recoup some of that. I also have refinances coming up for 5-year terms. I want to be prepared for those refinances and making sure I have enough working capital for those refinances, which I should be losing again, working capital for those refinances as well. So just making sure that my business is stable and making sure that things work according to my performance, according to worst case scenarios. Unfortunately, I didn't perform a 3.75% to 8% in my refinances. So,
God, who did? Seriously.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, in all seriousness, man, this is probably, when you look back on this year, you're going to sit back and I guarantee you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, this was the best decision I could have made for my business. It's such a hard decision to do because, as you said, entrepreneurs, we want to go, we want to find the next thing, find the next challenge. But this is the next challenge. This is something that's sitting right here in front of you that if you don't take care of, will eventually implode on itself. But this is the challenge, and good for you for 1, recognizing it, and 2, actually stepping in.
Yeah, you're giving me way too much credit. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of talking to people like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't grow. And I talked to one of my friends. He's like, well, what if you don't grow? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? He's like, well, what if you don't grow? Like, what if you just sold those units? I'm like, no, I can't. And it took me a while to like kind of understand, well, I can sell those units. I can sell. I can sell. I can flip. I can do this. I can do that. And I can get myself secure. And instead of going for growth, just go for, again, efficiencies in the business, going for stabilization, right? And I'm not saying growth is off the table either, right?
No.
It at this near term, it's suspended. It could be a pivot. It could be, look, I got a lot of these efficiencies. I have good people on my team. I want to change to this, right? I mean, selling water ice, right? Like, I I could probably sell water ice, pretzels and water ice really nicely because I have a good back office. I got this. I got good accounting, and that's might be what I want to do, right? Like I used to be a baker. It was one of my best jobs. I used to work at a bakery and a grocery store. So I always go back to that, like, oh man, maybe I could bake pretzels all day. So,
Hey,
but yeah,
and again, actually taking the time to step back into your business is what's going to allow you to do this, though. Because if you just grow, as you said before, the stress is real. Like that's not a fake thing. And if you're just growing, eventually you're going to get to the point where this isn't fun. This isn't something that's actually enjoyment anymore. So taking that step back, analyzing the business, figuring out where your strengths are, your weaknesses are, and reinforcing that, and then allowing yourself to actually grow as a person and as a family, and then on top of it, maybe even possible entrepreneur. I mean, hell, that's a fun 2023 in my version.
And yeah, that's the other thing. I don't know if I mentioned this on this call or the call previous, but we are growing as a family. So we have a third kid coming.
Yeah, exactly.
In August. So yeah, it's going to allow time for that too. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day that just had their third kid. She has 6 weeks paternity leave. And I was telling them, well, I didn't even have paternity leave. Like when you run a business, you don't have paternity. I actually was like making a deal. My second kid, my wife reminded me too. My second kid, I was locking up an agreement for 3 lots while my wife was like having contractions. And then after he was born, I was settling on the deal right after he was born, right? So I didn't have any type of paternity leave, right? This year I could get some, right? I could probably take a couple of weeks. I could take at least a day off, right?
At least, yes. Yeah. Please give yourself a day off for this one.
So yeah, and yeah, if I create the efficiencies, I stabilize the business. I'm not doing as much volume. That should come easy to me, right? Those few days off. So let's see where I'm at 6 months. We should probably do a follow up.
Oh, please, can we? I love it.
It might be anywhere from look, I'm retired, I'm loving my life to no, I'm going for 250 units and I'm getting there in 3 years. There's no telling where I'm.
See, this is why we would have to do a follow up because I need to know where you're going to be in 6 months. I want to know where you're going to be in 3 months now.
Yeah. I don't know. Either,
so during all of this, how do you actually like unwind? Are you reading, going to the gym, meditating? What is it that helps you actually like calm?
I skipped the gym this morning. I've been doing a lot of skips lately. But yeah, I do CrossFit. From January through like April of every year, I do like a nice cut. I lose 25 pounds. And then in the summers, like this is summer just started, right? In my mind, I skipped the gym today. I ate unhealthy all weekend. So I'm going back into the summer bulk mode right now. But I always like kind of stay consistent with working out even still, right? So working out is one of my major go-tos. I always read, but I don't read for like pleasure type of reading, right? I read for self-help, growth, business, like trying to get my strength in mindset up.
I'm a huge believer in those books, man. Those books are that to me is reading for pleasure, like that.
Oh yeah.
I never read before COVID came, like literally like Cliff Notes, anything and everything all through school. Never bought the college books, Cliff Notes and everything.
School's a different story, but yeah, I understand.
I'm bad. And then COVID came. Shout out to Sky Michaels and Compass and the 6 a.m.ers. They got me reading. And ever since then, dude, now, like I'm reading 2 books a month, and yeah, one's always a self-help. One is something medical, some way to eat healthier, live healthier, something along those lines. And then one's always about business. So I kind of rotate those 3, and I'm always got 2 going at one time. And then listening to stuff while driving has been the greatest for me. So I'm a big believer in those books. That's reading for pleasure.
Yeah. And yeah, those books, any type of podcast too that I like. I've been listening to a lot of Joe Rogan lately, so that's not like that's entertainment, right? That's pleasure, that's entertainment. But there's several business podcasts. I like this guy named Dan Sullivan.
Okay.
He kind of opened my mind to free time as well, right? So forget his name of his podcast. I'd have to look it up.
I'll Google that one. We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, he's like a business coach. So he was saying something ridiculous about like he only works 180 days a year and he finds it better. And I started like that really hit me, right?
Ooh.
Like 180 days. How does it go? Well, why can't I take a day off? Right. So and that's the last thing I do. I go fishing. I have a fishing boat parked in Raritan Marina. And last year I didn't go as much, but the 2 years before that, I bought it in 2020, right before the fishing boat boom happened.
Good for you.
And I went like 20 times a season, right? So 2020 I went probably 20 times. 2021 I went 20 times, and then 2022 I went probably like 14, 15 times. So maybe even a little bit less, but yeah, so that's what I like to do to rewind, and I go weekdays too, right? So as a father, your weekend, your sports and everything, your weekends are like a full-time job, right? So my kid, my older kid, 5 years old, he's t-ball and spring soccer. My younger kid's spring soccer, right? Our whole Saturdays are go. Sundays we go see family or whatnot. I mean, now summers, we're probably going to turn the grill on a lot more, but that doesn't leave a lot of time to go fishing at all, right? So
mine's the golfing side of it, but I get it because it's the same kind of like time commitment. You go fishing for an hour, like that just doesn't exist. It's a half day minimum type thing.
Oh yeah, and like my business will be. I have my fishing very efficient, right? So I have everything like organized, ready to go. So I'm on the boat. I'm on the boat. Drive is 37 minutes away. I'm out in the water within an hour, and like washing down the boat, cleaning up the fish. I'm very efficient with that too. So you gotta be. So.
Yeah, you do. But you're absolutely right. You have to be. Because as you said, the weekends, Saturdays, I'm in the same situation, man. Little League and soccer, both kids. The Saturdays are they're not happening.
Yeah, and it's funny. I bought a boat with them in mind too. Like, how nice would it be to go fishing with them on the weekends, this and that. I just got to make it. I got to keep the boat, make it happen, right? So I have to get the kids introduced to fishing or being on the boat. They like the boat so far. They've both been on there a few times, and that was a weekend adventure, right? Sunday.
Do you bring your kids into the real estate side of things?
No, not yet, because I'm in Philly, and I live in New Jersey, right? So the drive is kind of tough. We do like Adventure Aquarium. We like the Philadelphia Zoo.
Yeah.
Right? So when we go there, I like to I have some properties in Parkside and some land. So I'll take them around and just show them like, oh, I own that. And they have no idea what's going on. They're just ready to go to the zoo. And then when we're in Adventure Aquarium, you can see the city skyline, like the old city skyline from Adventure Aquarium.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Camden. So we always mention like, oh, you guys are going to own Philadelphia. Like it's called affirmations in self-help books, right? So we'll show them Philly and be like, oh, you guys are going to take over. You guys are going to start owning stuff there. They're a little young to kind of understand what's going on. So they're like, oh, I don't understand. Well, it's kind of like the Lion King scene, right? Like Mufasa's.
They get it, man. They just keep talking to him. I used to do the same thing with he's about to be 9. And when he was younger, he was like, give me those weird looks, didn't really engage it. And now he like drives around and is like, Dad, there's a for sale sign. Dad, that house looks run down. Dad, that one hasn't cut the grass in a while. Dad, that one's got 2 electrical boxes on it.
Yeah.
And now the little one is like competing with them, trying to point out stuff too. So I got into real estate. One of the biggest reasons was for my kids, was for that pass down to, show them that the rat race isn't the only way. There is other ways out there. And so yeah, I love it, man. Just keep talking real estate to them. Just keep showing them the way. We need good people here in Philly, man. So yeah, train them, get them good. Let's keep them going.
And look, it might not even be Philly, right? Where the way they eventually land, right? So I'm not saying Philly, but just but yeah, like just trying to get them involved in any way I can. Right? So.
No, I absolutely agree with that, man. But yeah, dude, as much as you can get them in, get them in. I like it. And again, right now's the year, right? You're building your business back. You're going through it. You talk some numbers to them, make them understand that.
Oh, my son loves numbers.
Yes.
I don't know how. He's 5, right? So I don't know how he's gonna do with the BRRRR method right now, though. He's still doing he calls it doubles, right? So he'll quiz me 8 plus 8, 16 plus 16. And that's his thing right now. So.
Dude, please get him into the BRRRR method, because I could use somebody who can, like, I'll drive around with him, spin out addresses.
Yeah, he's sharp in math. I think it's going to take a couple more years. So. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, as I say, just train him just the BRRRR, like mathematics out of it. Don't worry about the other stuff.
Yeah. No geometry.
No,
you don't need geometry or calc. We're doing addition, subtraction, percentages, and BRRRR method.
Compound interest calculation.
Yeah, that's it. All the important stuff. But yeah, I'm sure he's gonna get into the calc and whatnot too. So.
Right? Yeah. Nowadays, that's taught in like 5th grade.
Yeah. I was actually in AP Calc. Like, now you're reminding me. So I didn't do well in it, but
well, dude, I'm jealous because you've got that CPA background, which is an awesome little background to have. I mean, that's one of the biggest places where investors, as you mentioned, struggle, is knowing your actual numbers and being able to drill them down and knowing what's profitable and what's not, and then being able to see the end picture.
And I would agree, it's a skill set, right? So you see a lot of real estate investors who were former accountants, right? I can name 5 off the top of my head, right? Where it takes a lot of attention to detail, a lot of knowing your numbers, but more importantly, it takes a lot of adapting, right? A lot of adapting to the numbers you see and making sure those pivots happen appropriately and happen correctly and on time, right? So you can do whatever you want with the numbers, but they don't mean anything unless you do something with them, right? So, so that's important. And what I like to say to that is that everybody has their own skill sets.
Yeah.
Right. So you might not be great with the numbers, but you could find somebody who's great with the numbers.
Correct.
Right. I was never great with property management. I found somebody great with property management. And another plug to Go PMR.
Yes, please, John Sachs. Go visit them. GoPMR.com.
And then, I mean, construction, right? I had a general basis of construction. I developed that basis. I can hire subs appropriately. I can find the right people appropriately. But when I do things in my personal house, I'm on YouTube for hours trying to figure out, right? I have in front of me actually two parts. My air compressor is not working, right? I don't know how to fix that. I already watched like 20 YouTube videos on how to fix it. Took me a half an hour to order the right part. And then we're probably going to spend another hour fixing that, right? I'm sure these guys that are using air compressors all day, every day, they probably have these parts lying around. They could change it in seconds, right? So, like, yeah, I know I'm not the best at construction. But I know what framing should look like, right? I find people that frame appropriately, frame fast, frame cheaper when I need it frame cheaper, right? Like, I just know where that's at, right? Or I know how to find that
network, and you know how to go through your network.
Yeah. And look, I don't always hire the framers. I have 2 general contractors that I help hire the right people for the right needs, and it's pretty streamlined at this point. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that yes, I have the accounting skill, but other people have other skills, right? They might be sales, right? Paul, I can tell you're naturally sales oriented, right? I'm not naturally sales oriented, right? But can I still sell? Yes, I can. And how do I still sell? I know everything about the property that I'm selling. I know the back side of the property, like meaning the utilities. I can look at a roof and say, like, look, that house has a flat top roof, and you might have some ice damming there, right? And you're gonna have a lot more maintenance costs. Well, that house has no flat roof; it's all A-frame, and they have a brand new roof. You should probably steer to that if you're looking just maintenance. That's how I would sell, right? Other people sell by becoming somebody's best friend and saying, "Oh, come on, let's get this done. We can do it. That house is yours. You belong in that house," and whatever is needed to get them in that house, right? I can't really sell like that. So, that being said, there's a skill set in that. There's a skill set in a whole amount of different ways, right? So my skill set, yeah, it does happen to be that accounting background, but there's other skill sets to be had.
Dude, that's a great point. And I mean, even sitting on this side of it and talking to different people, you're absolutely right. Not one guest so far is the same. Everybody has a different skill set. They found what was their strength, and they typically hire out their weaknesses. And that's how they've been able to be so successful at the real estate game. And to your point, that's such a strong thing to know, your strengths and your weaknesses, and really build upon both of them. I know as me, I was a manager in food industry way back in the day, and I loved hiring people that weren't me. And I would get looks from the boss. Why you hire that person? They're not anything like you.
That's the hardest thing to do. Yeah, that's the hardest thing to do, too.
You know, like, I want nobody like me, because if I bring a bunch of people like me, there's going to be pitfall places. And I don't want pitfalls. I want everything covered. So I need somebody who's this person. I need somebody like that, because I'm not that. So that, dude, you're absolutely right. You know, just because you have that, it is a great strength, but other people can still do what they need to do. And listen, there's CPAs out there, and I don't do my taxes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I don't do my taxes anymore either. So I was more financial statement oriented, right? I have the best bank packages ever. Like, my bank packages are so clean. All the supporting documents are there. And that's what I was best at. For some reason, it still takes banks 6 months to go through my bank package. But that was my skill set in accounting.
We should start a Philadelphia-based business with you, just literally putting out YouTube videos of how to teach that, because I can tell you that is one of the biggest problems investors have, is that they don't know how to talk to the banks to get the money.
Yeah. And look, I struggle myself too, right? And especially recently, banks change hands all the time, change the VP, every banker is a VP. The VP you're talking to changes all the time. And it's not the easiest thing to get a grasp of, right? But you got to focus on what you can do to make it easy.
Yep.
Right? You can make it easy by not having them request anything, having everything in order. You know they're going to ask for leases. Put the whole package together, get your pro forma set up, pictures of the property, leases, 3 years tax returns, your financial statements prepared by a CPA, your rent roll clearly stated and organized. All that, if you have it set up, you're creating an easy process out of a hard process, right?
Yeah.
So,
now, did you set all those, like, I'm assuming you did most of those in Excel spreadsheets, kind of like a little checklist for yourself?
yeah, we have a template, so I no longer do that as well, right? So I set up a template after I had numerous requests from other banks. I realized that they all want a range of stuff, so I kept the range of stuff. Like, one bank wanted a write-up of who I am and what I do. So that's in our package. I'm actually going to open it up. If you bear with me, I can read off exactly what's in our package.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me do that.
Anybody out there, get your pen and paper ready because this is note-taking time. I've got mine.
All right, so we have 6 different folders, and the main folder in the template always has our last financial statements. Okay, so we create a financial statements based on fair value. It has my license and my last credit score.
Dang. Okay.
Because every bank is going to want that. Then out of the 6 folders, I'm sorry, we have personal tax returns. We include our last 3 years of personal tax returns, business tax returns. All my businesses are 100% owned. Not all my businesses, but all my properties are 100% owned. So I don't have a business return.
Ah, interesting.
They're single member entities, but I do have investments and small K1s and partnership interests in certain things. Like we will LP with other people. We'll put our money with other people. And we might have a 3% ownership of that entity, limited partner, no personal guarantees. And I can't tell you how many times a K1 for that investment has slowed down the rental refinance process.
Really?
It's so immaterial. I might get $1,000 on the distribution, and that's like the final piece, right? So we started putting K1s in our template. So any personal earnings that I have, so I will agent. I'll do some consulting work. Will lend. So any of that type of stuff that we have, I will have personal earnings backup. So 1099s. I've noticed that for most people, it's probably W-2s, right? So they're going to want to see that. Then I have property description, and this one has a sub notes, right? So this is you're making an outline on this one. A folder with pics. We have performa, which ends up being the actual operating performance of the property. And in the performa, we have purchase price, construction costs, total costs, Phil.gov value, tax comparable ARV, monthly rent, property management fees, insurance estimates, taxes estimates, monthly water. So we'll have a detailed performa to show what the property is doing, and then we'll also write it up in a property description.
Dang.
Right? Some people are not that great with Excel. They're not great with seeing that, so they want to see some nice MLS description language.
Yeah, no, dude, that is phenomenal out of it. I really love number 5, the folder with pictures. Like, I'm not hiding anything from you.
That's still number 4, property description, but that's like the subfolder.
Oh, okay.
And then in this property description folder, we still have that property description, like an almost MLS description. We have the agreement of sale, right? They always ask for agreement of sale.
Yep.
I don't put construction costs unless they ask for construction costs, because that's a little bit too much work.
Especially right now with everything jumping all over the price.
Yeah. And then there's simple downloaded information that they're probably pulling, right? So make it easy for them. Download Phil.gov, download MLS info, download sales comps, right? And you do all that, you have a nice package.
You got a really nice package. I'm sure somebody on the other end of the bank is actually going to sit there and appreciate it. First of all,
no, they don't. They open it after 4 months, and they're like, "Oh, we're looking for this." Well, if you just open the package I sent you, I can't tell you how many times that after like 2 months they're like, "Oh, we can't accept Dropbox links." Well, what were you doing in these last 2 months? Especially after I emailed you 8 times. So yeah, these banks are not in our favor, right?
No,
So,
I'll agree to that part.
Especially if you do what I do. They don't want a $200,000 loan. They don't want $150,000. They want a $500,000 loan so they can make more money with less work, right?
Yep, so, for the full 30 years. They don't want no short. They know you're going to pay it off. But they do and they don't. I know. Banks and me right now, yeah. I've got my own issues with them.
Yeah. All right. So, and then continue on after property description. Number 4 folder is number 5 folder.
Okay.
Corporate docs.
Ooh.
So get your corporate docs in there. They're going to eventually ask for your corporate docs. Include Philly revenue docs as well. And I mean, might as well put rental license in there as well, so they get additional comfort that you're doing the right way, right?
Yeah,
rental license
certification for banks or no?
No, I don't think that one's necessary.
Okay.
I think the less you put about lead, the better, right? You don't want you don't want the banks to get worried. They might not know what's going on, and they say, "Well, why don't you have lead free?"
Oh God, yes, please, no, don't even bring up lead free.
And then you have to get lead free for the bank, and then you're looking at a different reality.
My brother-in-law just got banged on a couple of those for his properties.
Oh, lead free, yeah. So I mean, I prefer to try to get lead free where it's possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
but they found out that he was rehabbing, and they came in. They're like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Oh, at least it's a full gut."
Yeah, if it's a full gut and there's no lentils painted or anything like that, you could potentially get lead free. It's very hard still, right? You have to be very careful. But yeah, lead safe is the way to go. And again, I want to put that in the bank package because banks might say, "Oh, you're not sure that there's no lead." We want to make sure there's no lead, right? I would just worry about that. You just know that it's lead safe, right? So
all right, so you're teetering on that line of not too much information, but just enough that questions don't need to be asked.
Exactly. And then on top of that, I have bios of entities. So we write up a nice business plan. This is an old, outdated version. Are you cool with me sharing my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
So again, this is an old and outdated version of it. I just happened to open up an old folder, but we create a business plan. We make it look professional. We take our time with it.
Professional, dude, that is professional.
And then we just kind of explain ourselves, explain my background, company goals. Yeah, so our company's main goal is to acquire 100 rental units by May 2019. I think I hit the mark. When did I hit the mark? 35. 21. I hit the mark 21.
All right.
And I think October 21, I hit the mark. So, and again, it's not there right now. So,
hey, it is. It's fine.
And then target areas of a map.
Oh, again, dude, that's cool.
What we do, like vertical integration, some before afters. People love before and afters.
Yeah, lets them know you're about your company a little bit more too. You're not just lipsticking, you're actually putting a nice product out there.
And then financing. Oh, this is outdated. Cash out financing with terms of 4.5% to 5.75%.
Woo!
If that doesn't tell you that's outdated, I don't know what does. So I'm gonna make sure we fix that on the new one. But again, this is like 3 years old. I just opened that.
Hey, that's why you're diving into your business this year, right?
Yeah. So, and we do have an updated one too. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And then everybody seems to have a few entities. I have probably like 4 or 5 on my tax return. I had a banker ask me, I don't know what these entities relate to, right? I see all these entities, and I just broke it down. This entity does this. This entity does that. That entity does this. And I just gave an explanation of what entity does what. So they have a full and complete picture. There's no questions for them to ask me now at this point.
Oh, they'll find something for you. Don't.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
sir, on
usually,
page
it's usually
11,
dumb.
yeah, page 11, paragraph 3, I see you didn't really complete your thought there.
Yeah. And they have gone that detail. Like, they asked me why we left off real estate taxes on the tax return, and there's like 5 levels of a review on the tax return. I have a very good CPA, and there's a preparer that reviews it. He reviews it. Then I take a review on the tax return, and I do this twice over, right? Because we do like 2 rounds. We do the businesses.
Yep.
In like January, like I want to be the first business that gives out him stuff. Then we get all these 1099s, K1s, and whatnot. We do a second round. So there's legitimately 6 levels of review. And one of the underwriters saw that we didn't have real estate taxes for a property, and I'm like, well, that's not possible. We do pay real estate taxes. So I look at everything. I look at the numbers, and it was just not keyed in. And I'm like, well, it was just not keyed in. Like, well, what do you want me to do? You want me to amend the tax return, or you want me to do this? They're like, oh no, we just wanted to make sure you're like it was showing better, right? The DTI was showing better. That wasn't any reason. Like, I wasn't hiding anything or trying to get a better loan. It was just legitimately missed on the tax return. So
if you're gonna hide something, don't hide tax or sales tax or
real estate taxes. Yeah.
Thank you. Real estate taxes out of it. They're gonna find those one way.
Yeah, and they add that back too. They add back taxes and depreciation, right? So
yeah,
they might even add that back. So.
That's don't get that.
Yeah, they'll get that no matter what. So. Actually, they don't add that back. They add back income taxes and depreciation.
Okay. Yeah.
But they kind of take it away sometimes because they want to use your new tax valuation, especially on increasing tax environments, right?
Kind of like Philadelphia's doing right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I wanted to keep this positive. Let's not go into that.
Positive. So, give me advice for a new investor that wants to start tomorrow. What are you going to tell them to do?
You got to educate yourself.
Good for you,
right? So, there are people that make it easy out there. I have a good friend named Hone Zone. You got to look him up. That's another plug for him. Or one of my friends. If I could plug myself too, I'd like to plug myself.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that's on my list. What is the name of your wholesale?
So let me finish my thought. So there's good people like Hone. You can reach out to Hone, but educate yourself on YouTube videos. Educate yourself on reading. There's Bigger Pocket. There's so many good books out there. You got to educate yourself, and then you can get involved, right? And then I was plugging Hone at Hone Zone. My own plug, everything's Irfan.a.raza, right? So okay. Instagram, IRFAN.a.raza, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I think my YouTube as well.
What else you got? Come on, how many handles you got?
YouTube, yeah, that's it, right? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
I don't know. I have somebody help me post it, so you'll see action on every one of them right now.
And so that's the name of the wholesale company too?
No, so that's just my personal handles. I market myself. Wholesale companies, Property Buyer Connect.
Okay.
And the investing name goes by Raza Homes, but there's a few different entities under Raza Homes. So
I'm sure there's about 100 of them.
No, that's the other thing. Stop doing the LLC thing as a new investor. Right?
Okay, talk to me. Why?
It's not professional advice. Seek your professional advice from your lawyer. Although I'm a CPA, I'm not practicing and giving professional advice as a CPA. I believe that one LLC is fine for a good amount of properties, and that good amount of properties is the threshold you should find that you're comfortable with, right? So, for me, it could be a dollar amount, it could be a unit count.
Interesting.
I believe it's just too much work to set multiple LLCs, right? With multiple LLCs, you're supposed to have multiple bank accounts. You're supposed to have multiple bookkeeping. You're supposed to have multiple tax returns, right? For BRRRR and NPT, BIRT and NPT tax returns. And then what else are you supposed to have? I don't know. You just have to have bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Different QuickBooks, right? So for me, I found that my threshold is around 40 properties I like to have. And then I like to create new LLCs for different areas too. So if I'm buying the suburbs, I like a different area. If I'm buying New Jersey, I like a different entity. I like those type of different entities. I have a different entity for lending, different entity for wholesaling, different entity for holdings, right? And eventually I'm going to have a different entity for construction as well, right? So all that being said, I think that it's important to understand that, yes, there is a liability aspect to it, but there's always insurance to cover your liability, right? And it doesn't matter. Liability doesn't matter when you don't have anything to cover, right? So if you have 10 different entities for 10 different properties, that's a lot of work. You're probably not going to get to 20 anytime quick because you're doing all this work for this entity nonsense. Yeah. And you're probably just going to get burned out.
Absolutely.
I was talking to somebody at a networking event, and they're like, "Oh, how many entities would you require?" And I was like, "Well, you should have insurance. Do you have insurance?" The guy says no. He's like, I have an LLC here and LLC there. I was like, "Well, why don't you have insurance?" He's like, "Oh, I just didn't get around to it." Well, why even create the entities if you don't have insurance? So what I do to cover my liability is I'm fully insured. I have a policy, E&O policy for here, E&O policy for there. I have separate entities. Then my real estate entities, I have not only landlord's insurance, I have on top of that, I have umbrella policy. Then the other thing that is kind of insurance in itself is don't have any properties without loans to them.
Yes, thank you. I've been waiting for somebody to say this. Thank you. If they have no equity in them, nobody wants to sue and take it.
Exactly, right? So have a loan on those properties as well, and then all of a sudden you're basically in the clear, right? You're not in the clear. I've been sued as well for what I consider, like slip and fall cases, and like you're never in the clear in that regards. But if you have full coverage across the board, there's actually land. I have dual coverage on land for a lot of my properties. So I have 2 different policies on my land policies, just because I feel that the writings on the policy when I dug in deep were just not enough, right? So I wanted a little bit more. So I got 2 different policies, and I'm covered with umbrella on them as well.
Yep. So I love umbrella. Umbrella is probably the most underutilized insurance that there is out there for us. People just don't. I don't know if they don't understand it. They don't look into it. Insurances aren't pitching it.
Umbrella right now.
I'm sorry.
What is your umbrella policy?
We have, I believe we just upped it from 3 to 5. I believe it is 3 to 5 million.
So I have 5 million too. So the change from 3 to 5 million was probably $700 to $850.
Yeah, when they broke the numbers down to us, the cost, and I mean, I got 5 doors. So I'm not close to you on it, but we wanted the extra insurance. Like, to me, it was just, I didn't want to have, God forbid, something happen to 2 or 3 properties all at once, and then I'm screwed. So no, we took the extra out of it. And as you say, the minimum cost broken down, it's well worth it. I'm insuring anything and everything I can. I just put sewer insurance on all my properties.
BRRRR.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I have landlord insurance on all of them as well. Some of them, if the basement's technically under grade, I've gotten flood insurance on them. Just God forbid, with what hey, pipe main breaks, everything down there. That's where everybody stores their stuff. I've got it all covered. I don't get anything. I require my tenants technically to have it, even though yes, I do not babysit you. I am not your parents. I'm not asking for the policy, but it's in the lease that you need to go.
Oh yeah, we have renter's policy as well. And look, during COVID, 2020, everybody is talking about uncertainty, financial uncertainty. I had financial uncertainty, and I had 3 properties burned down.
Oh my gosh!
So what people didn't talk about is that, I mean, I'm still at home right now, but like when people were working 40 hours a week, they were going somewhere and working 40 hours a week. They weren't cooking at home. When COVID happened, everybody started going home, started cooking at home, and they forgot how to cook.
I didn't think about that myself.
And 3 fires happened during COVID. And those were like really the only insurance policies that I made claims to. And I tend to carry a little bit higher deductible as well, because I know I don't make claims, right? So, so like if we had a car run into one of our houses, I did make a claim in that because it was fairly expensive. It was a structural wall. But say a car backed up into siding, right? On a house in one of the small streets, you happen to have siding and dead in the siding. I mean, the replacement of siding, our handyman would do that for a relatively small fee, definitely under $1,000. There's no reason for us to file a claim there, right? So I started realizing my habits and my thought process. I realized, look, I don't think I'm going to file a claim for less than $4,000. So what I did was I created a deductible at least $4,000.
That's smart.
So that kind of created low insurance for across the board. Low insurance premium was across the board, and it kind of matched up to my risk tolerance. That being said, I'm all about AWR because I don't want to spend $5,000 for a sewer lateral going across a double yellow on one of my properties, right? Like, or I mean, I just did one. I had one for I think close to $30,000. It was on Gerard Ave. It was from one side of the street to the other side of the street.
Oh my gosh, the police freaking cost on that alone to shut down that street.
Yeah, and the guy was great. It's $800 a day for police.
That's not bad.
So the guy did it in one day. He's one of the top plumbing guys. But I paid for it. I paid like maybe 40 to 50% more than my lowest bid. And my lowest bid came in, and I saw the guy do the work. The work looked good. And then one of my guys sent me a video of a SEPTA bus stuck in his hole. No joke. He did the work on our neighboring property, and there was a SEPTA bus stuck in the hole after like a tremendous amount of rain came down. So I was like, I had 2 quotes, but actually had 3-4 quotes in my hand, and I had to scratch that one quote, even though it's significantly lower, because I don't want to deal with the hassle of a SEPTA bus stuck in my ditch, right? So, so that's kind of where I'm at. I go off in tangents all the time. I'm sorry.
No, dude,
I have a lot of thoughts in my head, and I
love that one. I mean, to your point though, you want to, if there's an issue, you want to fix it and be done with it. You don't want that second call for the same issue ever. Like,
oh yeah,
that is the most annoying thing in the face of the earth.
And honestly, I don't know how to deal with the SEPTA bus going into caved in dirt. Right? It's just a lot more than I want to handle. So
yeah.
I already have enough fire drills.
Oh, dude, I just looked at the time. I didn't realize I got you this long. I appreciate.
Yeah, you might have to cut a lot of stuff out.
No, that's up to CJ. He can do all that himself.
He's good with that, right?
Yeah. That's on him out of it. But yeah, man, I don't want to take up any more time of yours today. This has been phenomenal, dude. We mark my word, we will have you back on.
All right, I'll see what I'm doing. I'm worried. I'm worried I will be slow.
I'm going to put a
figure out
reminder in
next
my calendar for 90 days to email or text or call or something to get you back onto the show. And we better have contact before that 90 days anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But hey, man, this has been absolutely my pleasure out of it. Any kind of quotes that you live by, you run your life by, family, business, anything like that?
Oh, you know what? I like this one that I'd never heard before anybody else say. This guy named Jay that I used to work with. He said, it's a good life if you don't weaken. Right? You got to stay strong.
Yeah.
And you will get the successes out of it. You will get the pleasure out of it. So just don't get weak.
Quick and easy. And what a small world. To the listeners out there, when I was talking to Irfan earlier, we realized that we actually met each other about 4 years ago as I was starting my real estate venture. He gave me advice that we'll get into on another episode. But yeah, dude, what a small world. Congratulations on the newborn coming. Congratulations on really realizing that your business should take a step back this year and actually work on the business and in the business rather than just growing it.
Yeah.
That's power to you. That's huge advice for everybody out there. But congratulations. Any last words for our listeners before I send us off?
I think that's it. You guys can follow me. Feel free to follow me. I shouted out my handles earlier, and I'm sure you guys are going to put on the notes.
Yep, we'll plug those in there.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Paul. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, unfortunately, that is the end of this episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show. There will be more actionable Atom-sized bits of advice that will be free for the taking in our next episode, so be sure to tune in next week. Thank you again to our listeners, and especially Irfan for being so generous with his time and insights into the beginning of his career and all the way up to where he is today. This has been a Direct Subs production. Check them out at directsubs.com. I look forward to hearing from all of you in our comments, and please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe wherever you choose to listen to the Atomic Real Estate Show. Let's be 1% better today, everybody.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.